Hello friends, neighbors, John your Whiskey Neighbor here. Welcome down the duck. Sunday, so we're going to shoot some samples. And yesterday I just kind of walked my way through some Old Forester, and so I'm in a bourbon mind. I've got two batches of Stagg Junior. Sean from Dark Cloud Whiskey gave me this batch 10, and Andy gave me this batch 12 a while ago. So I'm gonna shoot them, just share some thoughts, nose and taste on batch 10 and batch 12 Stagg Junior. So if you have any big, bold bourbon, why don't you pour a dram? Come on back. 3, 4. Thanks for coming back. I've poured out these fine samples, and we'll see if I can even tell at that high proof level any difference between these two. I sure hope I can. I know famously Stagg Junior comes out in batches. This is batch 10, which is 63.2%, and this is batch 12, which is 66.15. So 12 is a bit higher than 10, but neither of these are slouches. I don't know the mash bill here. We think it's mash bill number 1 out of Buffalo Trace, which would put it at maybe 10% rye. There are also no age stamps, so we don't know a lot of information except for that we pretty much all like Stagg Junior, although they can be bruisers. Let's get in here. This is batch 10. I've not had batch 10. I have had batch 12 before, but 10 I haven't. So, nose and palate, 63% strong bourbon. I said that, but the nose is good. It's a little honey nuts. Some vanillas, but not floral. Spicy already. Classic spices that you're going for. There is a light fruit going on. Really, the 63, I was going to say 60, is speaking. It's already pretty hot on the nose, so I'm struggling trying to get a few layers. I'll hit them both with some water and see if that can help me. Yeah, maybe some light maraschino cherry. But definitely a sweeter honey nut going on in there. Try it on the palate. Cheers. That's really good and sweet for some reason for me. I'm definitely going to go with some sweet maraschino cherries, some nice honeys in there. Lots of oak kicking around. Spices are a mix between cinnamon and clove, somewhere in there. And the oaking is not heavy char for me. It's like there is obviously some char in the conversation, but it's a little fresher oak. And as it sits down into its finish, now a little bit of cookie dough in there, which is interesting. I'm getting a lot of sweetness and cookie dough, like uncooked chocolate chip cookie dough kind of going on. It's surprisingly sweet. Boy, that's a good first sip. So I want to do a direct comparison before I try them both with some water. So this is batch 12, which is 66.15. So it is a little hotter. Let's see if there's any difference nose and palate. So on the nose, now that my nose has been burnt or settled down, the alcohol is a little more constrained, even though it's higher alcohol. And comparing back and forth, this is a little more savory and a little less fruity, I would say. Otherwise, a lot of the same key notes, a little less nut. Actually, I'm not getting any nut on this at all. So I do have some sweetness, some core sweetness, but less distinct fruit and a little more savory spice palate. Let's try it on the palate. Cheers. The differences are stronger in the palate. This has more caramel, more burnt brown sugar, significantly less fruit, and significantly less sugared sweetness, not getting any of that cookie dough reference. And even here I got some chocolates, but here in batch 12, not getting chocolates. but getting more rich spices. It is hotter on the palate, it's hotter on the tongue, hugging more down the chest. But with that hug, it's a little more savory, a little more almost black pepper in with some hot cinnamon. Another quick sip. Yeah, it is for me and my palate, it's a darker release, darker in a cooked down molasses, dark spices, a little more. Maybe there is some char in that oak, that kind of thing. Between these two, sweeter, darker. These are both beautiful. Put a fair amount of water on both because they can take it. Let's see if it changes any of the experience. Starting with batch 12 and going back to batch 10. Nothing essentially changed on the nose. Continues now to ride into a really nice cinnamon sugared, brown sugared molasses nose on the palate. Well, it's more approachable on the palate for sure. Less of that biting and hugging and all those things that I mentioned. And there is now a rounder, not quite chocolate, but some other dimensions of cookie sweetness. I don't know why cookies are on my mind, but something that fills it out a bit, like maybe more pastry, more cinnamon bun. I've used that a lot in my tasting notes, but that's how I describe a little more breadth to the palate. So it definitely lengthened out with some water for me. And it cooled down. I wouldn't even go into black pepper. Now it's really just some cinnamons. It's good. Stayed pretty true though. I didn't get something like, whoa, I didn't get that without the water. Certainly easier to drink. Batch 10 with some water, fair amount of water. Nose. Okay, all of those things going on, and the nut almost a peanut butter, but there's a slight bitterness that came up in the nose. Yeah, well, it could just be me. Use the same water, so it can't be the water. Let's try it on the palate. Cheers. It's lost a bit of that almost unique fruit character that I was getting. It's a bit closer to the 12 in some ways. It's still lighter, sweeter, if I may, and still has a little bit of that cookie dough going on. But the fruit is now just a general fruit cup, juicy fruit gum kind of fruitness. It's actually lost a little bit of character. I definitely recommend trying them with water, finding out where your sweet spot is. Maybe that was too much water for the 10, and it was probably just right for the 12. I like these both. And it would reflect mood, which one I would reach for. There are some uniqueness in this batch 10. I haven't had it before that I actually haven't picked up in a Stagg Junior before. So that's cool. Having said that, this batch 12 for me is barky and bold and spicy and huggy in ways that when I reach for a 66%er, I want it to kind of beat me up a little bit in a good way. I like these both. You know, Stagg Junior continues to be a delight for me, and I know there's question about whether it's coming or not, but if you, for some reason, can find one of these batches on the shelf, I know that's ridiculous because they sell out, but you never know. Maybe there's one lurking out there. Or a buddy has some Stagg Junior. Why don't you ask that person to give you a pour or give you a dram? As these two great friends, thank you, Sean, thank you, Andy, for sending it my way, have reached out and allowed me to taste a bit of this. Thanks for joining me here. Hope your Sunday went well and that the work week is pretty good. You guys take care.